Hi everybody, good morning. It is Monday, December 5th. Today I am here with Peggy Jennings-Phillips. Hello. And I'm going to be turning the screen around shortly so you can actually see Peggy and her assistant Jonathan. We will be getting started shortly. So just sounding off to make sure that the live broadcast is going. Who is tuning in right now? All right, we got some folks. All right, excellent. So blanket statement really quick before Peggy introduces herself. Because of the way that loans are, is a case-to-case basis. So asking specific questions are going to have to be more in-depth conversations that really cannot be held on a live stream. Because one thing that might work for somebody else may not work for another. So if you do have any specific questions, of course, we'll be holding those till the end. And if we do think that it's going to be something a little bit more specific than broad subject matter, then I will request that you PM me your information and I'll pass along your information to Peggy and Jonathan to help you out specifically. So does that sound about right?
Sounds good.
All right, okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to give it to Peggy and we will start now.
Hello, guys. Hey, thanks, Morgan, for having us on. Show a picture of Jonathan as well over here.
This is
Hey, glad to be
Jonathan.
here.
We want to first just say this is Mortgage 101, so we keep it real layman terms. There's no one answer that fits all solutions. There's a lot of stuff going on with mortgages, mostly credit questions and down payment is what we get. Affordable housing is big in York County right now. We want the people that are out there renting to be able to purchase. Most people pay up to $1,000 per month in rent. And for that, they can own a home. So we're going to get right to credit. And Morgan, if you can concentrate on this screen. Oh, excuse me, that's kind of my boss. There you go. Go ahead and concentrate on this over here.
All right, we got the
This is credit score. So basically, one of the biggest questions is always asked is, what does my credit score have to be?
Right.
And like I said, there's not a set credit score as far as mortgages go, because some companies might say as low as 580 is a credit score that you could get qualified for. Mm-hmm. Allen Tate says basically 620 is where we like to target, but that doesn't mean that because you have a 620 score that you're going to get it. And same thing with a 580 score, because there's always circumstances that you may have some delinquency on there, unpaid judgments, other things. But for the most part, credit score driven. This screen right here, which you can reflect on, Morgan, is going to tell us basically what we look for and how your credit score is determined.
Right. And
So-
really quick, is this infographic available to be shared?
It can be shared.
Okay,
It
cool.
can definitely
Awesome.
be shared. I'll get it to you and you can
All
share
right,
it.
excellent. So we'll share that link.
Okay,
So,
sounds great.
sorry.
That's
Keep
okay.
going.
All right, so basically the majority, where does my credit score come from, is 35% of your credit history is going to be determined how do you pay what you have now. Are your accounts paid on time? Okay, so does that mean that you can't be 1 or 2 days late if your bill's due on the 1st and you pay, say, on the 2nd or 3rd? Do I have bad credit? No. If you pay over 30 days late, it's going to report to your credit score and it's going to affect your credit. So you always want to pay your bills when they're due. That's huge. If you look at this piece of the pie, 35%, that's huge. 35% of the time you're looked at is, do you pay your bills on time? So that's the most important thing. People say, well, you know, I didn't pay my bills on time, but I've learned from that, and now I pay my bills on time. How long do I have to wait? You want to wait for your like mortgage history, things like that, at least 2 years. You want to look at good credit history. Car loans, things like that, that's pretty major. But as far as like, if you had some kind of small late or something, 12 months maybe, but then again, case by case. So 35%, how you pay your bills, are they on time? So the other 15% is basically, if you look at the piece of the pie, 15% is how long have you had credit history. So some people, I think you're one of the cases, Morgan, where you start out with credit right in college.
Yes.
Some people do that, some people don't. I know we talk to people now that people are in their 30s and they don't have any credit, you know. So you have to establish credit. Typically, the longer the better. So if you paid your credit and you paid it on time and you paid it for a long length of time, your credit score is going to be pretty decent. If you haven't, you need to start establishing credit. That's a subject we can take offline.
Yes.
How do I establish credit? That is huge for people because they don't have credit. How do I establish credit? So we can take that offline. I can take anything offline if people want to talk to me more about credit. I think you're going to show my card in a few minutes.
Yes.
Email's the best way to get a hold of me. But 15% is how long have you had credit, okay? And then 10% is saying, your credit card usage. People have credit cards. If you look down here, it says 9 open credit cards. That's a lot of credit cards. Most people really don't have nine. Most people have like 2 or 3.
This, Mom? You were yelling at me for my 2. Golly.
So, most people really don't have 9. But when you go online sometimes and you're buying something, they always ask you to open up credit. So that's not always a good idea. But anyway, so when you have your credit cards, how do you use your credit cards? Do you max them out? Do you keep them low? It says right here 20% or less. People don't know that. I'm telling you, people don't know that because I didn't even know that when I wasn't in this business. I thought, well, only half of my credit cards used, so that's not too bad. No, it's 20% or less. So you always want to keep your credit cards paid down. A lot of times if you have a credit card that is paid maxed out, if you have a $1,000 limit, you're used $900, your credit score is going to be a little on the lower side. You're more of a risk to the lender. But if you have your credit card and you pay it down, even during the course of time we're doing the mortgage, it brings your credit score up. So that helps people a lot. This talks a little bit about 74% of college students don't know their credit score. That's huge. 33% of Americans in general don't know their credit score. So a lot of people just haven't been educated on credit scores. How do I make my credit score? Credit's so important in determining the risk factor for the lender. And that is what we don't have enough of as education to the public because they just don't know anything about it. And there's nothing wrong with that because if they've never ever tried to buy anything, especially a home, they're just not going to know about it. So I'm always here for questions about credit and establishing credit, things like that. I think somebody asked you about student loans.
Yes, we do have a couple questions about student loans, mainly because, at least with my generation, and I think a lot of people in my generation can speak to it, is that we are bogged down with student loans.
And credit cards.
And credit cards. to just try to buy food from having to pay off those student loans is nuts. So what are some basic tips for student loans that folks can start implementing?
Okay. So Jonathan, actually, one of the virtues he brought to Allen Tate Mortgage was student loan history and how student loans are taken care of because he worked for a student loan company. So I'm going to let him answer this a little bit or touch on it.
Well, one of the biggest things that students have a tendency to do is get too comfortable with forbearing their student loans. And student loan scenarios are on a case-by-case basis. It's best that you refer your student loan questions directly to Peggy. And then we work together as a team to see your individual situation as it pertains to your outstanding student loans and then can advise you accordingly from there on out. It's too broad of a question to answer.
My apologies.
Yeah, that's okay.
But somebody who does have student loan debt, of course, can obtain a mortgage. If the cases are good.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
I want to mention one more thing, and if you'll put your screen here, this is kind of cute, and I've just got married recently, so I think that this is kind of cool. Your partner, okay? 50% of women and 40% of men, they don't even know their own partner's credit score either. So girls, if you're single, you got to ask that question. You need to know their credit score. I'm just kidding.
I was about to say, I know Tim's watching this right now. He's going to be like,
Well, it is important though, because, when you're building a life together or whatever, you're looking at financial things. You need to know each other's credit score as well. Just know your own credit score even. And if you don't, like I said, if you don't have established credit, then we can help you get that. If you don't, if you had delinquent credit, that's big. That's big. A lot of people think, well, I had bad credit. I lost a house. I had a foreclosure. I had a short sale. In 2008 was rough for everybody. You had the electricians out of work. You had the housing people out of work. Plumbers. I mean, there was a lot of people, right? There was a lot of people out of work. And a lot of people lost things, and that's been a long time ago. So let's get back in the game and try to focus on how do I clean that up now.
Right.
We do a lot to help people in that area, cleaning up credit, show you which direction to go in. It's not a long life sentence. You don't have to think that you're going to have to rent for the rest of your life. If you're renting now and you've paid 12 months good on your rent, and say you're paying $800,000, $900,000 a month. And
$900,000 a month.
I mean,
that's a lot of rent.
$1,000 a month. Let me reiterate that.
Landlord, sorry.
Thanks, Morgan.
Sorry, but $800, $900 a month. Yes,
you got it.
Gotcha.
You can buy. Come on, you can buy, and they need to get with you because you're like the best. And see how much house they can afford. Because ultimately, the underwriter's looking at if you can pay your rent, you can make a house payment. That's not set in stone. But that's a good start for people.
That's good to know. So if you're paying rent right now, there's a good chance you can buy a house.
Right. And if you have things to straighten up, as far as your credit goes, if you can't be our customer today, we'd like to have you as a future customer.
Right.
So it gives you something to go towards. And I love helping people. Actually, we're going to start in January having classes once a month to help people with credit.
That's fantastic.
Down payment information, that'll be another segment because that's a whole segment by itself. Because there is 0% down for our veterans. There's 0% for USDA. As you know, that's at houses in certain areas. And then you have your FHA programs with 3.5% down, which is just about any house you want to pick out in York County. So that's a whole other segment. I'll be glad to touch base with you on another time on that. Anything else, Jonathan, you want to add?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to have us live with you, Morgan.
It's been fun.
Appreciate
It's been fun. So I do have a couple questions. Of course, this one is from my Tim, and he's asking me what my credit score is. I'll tell him when I get home because I'm not putting that out there.
That's funny.
And then the next one comes from Tim Stouffer, who says, what is the best path to follow in, number one, initiating student loans, and number two, addressing negative items on your credit report? So, Tim, that is a very good question. Of course, you can PM me, and I will send those questions to Peggy and Jonathan, who are actually, I didn't get the red memo today.
We actually like Christmas over here.
Yeah, it's like Christmas bells over here. But I'm going to hold up Peggy's card really quick. This is her contact info. I apologize for the fat fingers. But that is her contact info there. And I'm also going to put her contact information in the comments section so you can reach out to her specifically. So, again, any questions that you have, please refer to her specifically. Again, we don't want to get too broad with answering questions because screenshot it. I can screenshot it. Okay, so I'll screenshot it, says Tim, and send it over. So, anyway. I think that's it right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad to join you again.
Well, thank you so much,
Awesome.
you guys, and
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Bye.
Yes, indeedy. Bye.